Hello there, Sarah from 17 once again. This is my... Wow, there's a nice piece of double audio playing right now, thanks to the awesome, highly polished thing that is Mass Effect Andromeda. This is Insanity walkthrough, and we're on EOS, and this is going to be the a better beginning mission, which will be broken into two sections, because it's actually pretty long. Once you land on EOS, we're going to be looking into this colony here that apparently fell to the Ket, and we're going to be finding out what went wrong, and it's going to escalate into pretty much the main meat of what you're going to be doing in this game. So I recommend scanning as much as you can. The more Milky Way points you get, the better, because it's going to help you get some fun weapons, and everything else is just, you know, icing on the cake. So, I mentioned in the previous video a couple of tools to keep you alive. Now I'm going to talk about pretty much the path that this guide is going to take, so that you can kind of follow it as best you can, but also deviate from it to give yourself a better time. So, Mass Effect Andromeda is a very big game. There are 5 main planets that you can explore, and each of these planets is pretty big, and it has a ton of shit to do on it. You terraform them, you make outposts, you do all kinds of sundry tasks, you can find caches of weapons. There is a ridiculous amount of stuff to do on these 5 planets, but the trade-in here is, I think there's only 5 planets to land on. In Mass Effect 1, you could land on about 50 planets, but about 49 of them had fuck all on them, except for just driving around like an idiot looking for shit that wasn't there. And there was a charm to that at the time, but this game's chose to do a different thing with how it works. So there's less planets this time to explore, but they're bigger. And you'll probably see a little bit of the Dragon Age Inquisition influence on this game, because I noticed it immediately with the resources that you pick up. Because I put a lot of time into Dragon Age, I cleared every single zone on that game, and I had a lot of fun with it. But immediately when I saw the way that, you know, stuff like the iridium and uranium and what have you look like, it looks just like picking the shit up did in that game. And there's nothing wrong with that, it's just immediately showing maybe its influence or maybe a bit of its technology. And this does feel like those zones in Inquisition, where you go to these places and it's this massive play area with quite a lot to do in it, but not really of anything important. Whereas I think this game might have a bit more of important things happening, but it has nowhere near the scope, because if you remember, on Dragon Age Inquisition, there was about 30 zones, and they were all bloody massive. It took forever. And it was great for me, because it was a new experience. I'd never played a Dragon Age before, so it felt like I was, you know, on a new frontier and discovering it all myself. Whereas in Mass Effect, a lot of people have played Mass Effect before, and it's kind of a very similar experience. So that's definitely something to know. And that's a lot of the main meat of the game, as I've mentioned. But this walkthrough, or for the purpose of this walkthrough anyhow, all I will be doing is the main missions. And I'm going to be doing the main missions the moment they come up. Which means I beat the game at level 18. You're probably not meant to beat the game at level 18. You can, which is awesome, but it's one of those things where you've missed out on 1,000,000% of the game. Because I didn't do anything really, didn't do any of the loyalty missions, didn't do anything, you know. It's pretty, you know, pretty direct and decisive, isn't it? Nothing was done except for main missions. That is what I'm going to guide you through. You don't have to do it that way, and you will have a much easier time if you do some of the distractions, because there is a ton of things that can be done. So I definitely recommend, you know, picking any kind of path that will help make you, your team, and your equipment better. So that's the first thing. Just because you're not going to see me doing side things doesn't mean you shouldn't, because it makes everything easier. The better you are, the better the game is. The next thing will be for the weapons. So I've mentioned that I'm going to be using explosive choice, and I'm going to be using a shotgun as backup. My weapons of choice initially were going to be the Falcon and the Scorpion, which are 2 explosive radius weapons that I managed to beat the entire game on Insanity my first run with quite comfortably. But my playstyle adapted in this and changed. But I'll continue this thought after we've done this battle, because this battle can get quite hairy. So once you touch the second of the radio towers, it's going to call in a bunch of Ket. I like to come on top of the Tempest and use this plate here as cover. I've got the sniper rifle that I picked up off of the prologue after that battle, and we're going to be taking on just a handful of Chosens, and I think 1 or 2 Destins maybe. Whenever anybody jumps up, you want to deal with them immediately, because they're the threat. They're the ones that need to be put down. Your team are not going to be very good here because they don't have much to do. We've currently got Vetra, and I think we've got the Lady Vanguard, whose name I've just forgotten. And both my team is dead, so everybody comes for me, which is not a problem, because they have a problem on top of this plane. For whatever reason, they're not very good at flanking you here. They can walk all the way to the side of you, but they can't quite figure out where to go from there. So you can use this with your cooldowns and your abilities to pop them away with a nice piece of biotic. Like this guy right now. This is quite hairy, but he will never push further than that point. And if he does, I just hit him with some biotics and get rid of him. And it's simple. There's another Chosen doing the same thing the last guy did, but do you see how they always kind of stop just there? And they never push round. If he continued to push round, he could have killed me, but he doesn't. And I don't know why. So I do an overload, kill him, finish him off, and there's 2 guys left. Put the sniper back on. Wait for him to move out of cover. The cool thing about the enemies in this game is when you hit them with something that makes them flinch, their head will move back to exactly where you thought it was to begin with. So you can wait for them and then hit them. It's incredibly powerful. So you can just chain headshots once you get comfortable with it, but once again, if you have that aim assist on, it will fight you the entire way, and it's really, really egregious. But there's a quick level up, that's the end of the enemies, that is your first skirmish. Don't worry if you die 1 or 2 times figuring things out. The enemies on this game are very aggressive, they do a lot of damage, and because you don't control the cover system, there are times when you just get shot because your guy won't like back behind whatever you're behind. It's really frustrating. But as I was saying, what was I saying? I was talking about weapons, wasn't I? Yeah. Scanning everything is important because it increases your research potential. Also, the guy I just spoke to then, he has a shop and you can buy a Mattock from him and something else. I recommend buying the Mattock because it's way better than the Avenger. I'm going to swap the Avenger the moment I get it so that I can put on anything else, and it turns out I put on a weapon I've never used before. It's one of the Ket weapons, and it's not brilliant, but it's fun, so it was interesting at least. I just don't recommend it. Which is something I need to talk about, and because we're on the topic of weapons, I think this is a good opportunity to do it. I don't like the weapons in this game a lot. I like the Milky Way weapons because they're the weapons from Mass Effect 1, 2 and 3. They're weapons that I know, they're weapons that I love, they're weapons I've got a lot of experience with. And because of this, they're the weapons I only really use, and it's really bad because you should use the new stuff and find out if it's good. But they look so bad. And I'm a type of player that if something looks like a big bubbly gum green ugly ass water pistol, I don't want to use it. And that's what every single one of the Ket weapons look like. They're these big, like, tumorous, blobby, awful, like, concentric sphere pipe launcher things, and God, they look bad. They look really bad. And then you use them, and they're pretty fun. But they look so bad. They really do. Like, you know that one friend that everybody had who thought he was really good at drawing but he wasn't, and he continually showed you his artwork, and every time you'd be like, yeah, that's cool, dude. And inside you're thinking, God, I hope he doesn't put any money into this because he's going to be bankrupt with no skill. It's like that. They look so bad, and they all look bad. Each one of them is a different iteration on green bubblegum spherical terrible. It's really bad. And then there's the remnant weapons, which all look kind of interesting, but they look a bit like those weapons that you used in Halo from that new race in that game. So it's just a bunch of crystally, spiky, angular, liney weapons that do nothing for me, because I like guns. I've always liked guns. I live in a country where you can't have them, but that doesn't mean I don't want them. I'm the type of person that I want to pay to go on courses so that I can strip guns, so that I know how to stand and I can do, tactical movement with weapons. I want to know all about safe weapon use and weapon disciplines. I want to be able to do everything because it fascinates me. Because I like guns, I like gun porn, I like all of it. So guns are a big thing to me because I love them. I always have ever since I was a kid. My imagination is crafted of memories of being in forests holding sticks that were MP5s and M16s. That's just something I've always liked. So when I come to a game like this and the limit on the weapons is nothing because you can be as creative as you want, and they give me 20 different versions of green blob horror. Why? Why do this? And then the other ones look like this place. Just big, spiky, obelistic shape, angular, geometric nightmares of nothing. Like, nothing redeeming about the designs at all, other than that they look otherworldly, so I suppose they achieve their purpose, but they look like shit. So I'm not happy at all. And it's this silly thing, because the guns themselves could be the best guns in the game. Ironically enough, the shotgun I'm going to recommend you use is a green bubblegum awful looking gun, but it's so goddamn powerful, it kinda is amazing. And I miss out on these amazing opportunities because of how visual I am and how I can't stand using something that looks horrible. And it's one of those weird things where I just wish that they'd made the Ket and the Remnant tech look nicer. But this is a piece of advice from me to you right now, guys. Turn off that part of your brain and just try them. Because those guns that look like, you know, Lego gone mad are probably really good. And you might find your next favourite weapon, because at the end of the day, does it really matter what it looks like? Definitely. But it's what it performs like that's most important. And when you're on Insanity, the enemies are going to kill you in seconds, so you need to kill them in seconds. And it might just be that thing that, you know, looks like your nephew's bloody Lego project that gets you through the win. So, just a piece of advice. Don't judge everything by its cover like I do, because I'm a shallow bastard. It'll get you romped. But this is an observer. These guys, horrible creatures. Do you notice how on top of his HP there's those two blue icons? That means I've told my team to target him. Do the same thing. These things are a nightmare. This first fight is not bad at all. It's introducing the enemies. The next one is horrendously difficult. So you've got to get real creative on the next one. Unless you do a bunch of side quests and come back way stronger. Up to you. But the grand scheme of things on the original plan was to use the Falcon and to use the Scorpion. The Scorpion in this game is actually really, really, really strong. They've scaled it badly in the new engine, so it looks way too big for the person's hands. It's actually kind of hilarious how big it looks. But it delivers, and that's what counts. It's a gun that I used a lot on my Asari build in the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, so I love that weapon. I was looking for it immediately, and it just so turns out it's got 430 damage on a tier 5 weapon, and it's a pistol, and it's explosive, so it has radial damage too. The Falcon, nowhere near as good as Mass Effect 3, but I like that rifle. I like how it sounds, I like how it looks. It's kind of a really ugly, fit-for-purpose kind of brute force gun, and I've always enjoyed it, so that's why I went for it. And it proved to be really, really useful, especially on a boss fight later on, where a bunch of mobs pack the boss area, and I just kept blind firing it and hitting them and getting tons of splash and killed them all. It was really, really good. And the reason why I'm telling you this is that you can buy the Falcon incrementally from 1 to 4 and 5 in the Nexus, so you don't even have to make it. So if you're interested in having an explosive option early on and something that's, you know, pretty good damage wise but a little tricky to use, pick that one up. That's what I'm going to be doing from the beginning of the guide, and we're going to gradually weed it out, because that was the original plan. But now I'm going to recommend that you use the Dan. I think it's called D-H-E-N-A-N, Dan, Den, something like that. It is a Ket shotgun. It has 2 shells in its clip, but those 2 shells can kill an anointed without his shield. That's right, guys. On Insanity, 2 shots from that gun will kill those big guys. It's ridiculous. I think 3 shots on an Ascendant shield, when you have a decent version of it, drops his shield. It's like a completely different planet of damage. It is ridiculously strong. And the weapons on this game all work kind of the same. There's a rarity chart from common all the way up to ultra rare. I don't know if that has an effect though, because I crafted one and it didn't say it was ultra rare, and it had the same stats as the ultra rare one. So I'm not too sure what the rarity means, other than it's got that really nice badge. But there's probably something that makes a difference. I'm just not sure what. It might be a shiny. By the way, this is the fight that's really fucking difficult too, so I'm gonna have to stop my conversation for this. There's 4 observers here, I think. There's a lot, and they do not die. So what I like to do on this particular fight is I like to push to this side of the area to pull them away from my team, so it gives them 2 things to shoot at. And then between me and my team, we take out as many as we can before the team dies. And unfortunately, one of the team has died, and the other one is probably on the way. I think Vetra's doing okay at the moment, so I pull away from her all the way to this. And this introduces you to the idea of life support. So whenever you're on an unhospitable... What is that word? On unhospitable, is it? Fucking hell, language just left me then. Unhospitable, there you go. Whenever you're on a planet that says, fuck you to life, your little bar starts going down in varying degrees of measurements. When that gets too low, you die. So I am now on a time limit to do as much damage to these assholes as I can from a distance before I have to go back into that shield force field that they're standing in, because then that will give me life support and I can continue to exist. This sniper rifle is by no means the best, but it's really useful, and it leads me to my first massive criticism of this game. The weapon animations are horrible. Do you see how he's holding the sniper from the hip? He's firing it from the hip. There is no animation of him holding it up like an assault rifle or holding it anywhere close to his face. He is the Arnold Schwarzenegger of sniper shots, and it winds me up because I hate it. Once again, I like guns, and I like using them how they're meant to be used. Admittedly, this is a space gun, it doesn't exist, there's creative license, but they can fuck off. You cannot hip-fire a sniper rifle. Doesn't work. This is not Call of Duty, so I don't know why they chose to do this. I know in the old games, there might have been a little instance of it, but I remember the Widow, and I remember after a shot, the barrel went up and he racked that chamber, and then he came back down, and it looked amazing. And the Widow fires like this fucking gun. From the hip with that awful, oh, I'll just hold it on my side and pat its bottom reload. Really don't like it cosmetically at all. But I'm out of sniper rifle now, and this leads us to the second aspect of the game that is very difficult. Ammo management. So gone are the Mass Effect 1 days, where you had unlimited ammo as long as you managed your thermal clip correctly. If this was Mass Effect 1, this should be simple, but it's not. So there will come a point where you have to put yourself in a bad spot because you don't have the bullets to win. And that is always when games get really difficult. This game has those special supplies that you can use that gives you your ammunition, electricity, cryo, and incendiary, but I never use them, because I don't like this idea of having consumables that I have to rely on to win. And I would prefer to be a massive bitch 6 weeks ago with a sniper rifle slowly suffocating on an inhospitable planet than doing those incendiary things. And I don't know why I'm like that, guys, but I just kind of am. I think it stems from the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer. I only ever used those consumables is when the shit hit the fan and we were going to win and it was on gold or platinum and we needed to get through it. Where literally every round people were using Cobra rockets. Which, just to kind of burst your bubble, guys, Cobra rockets do not do shit on insanity. I was really hoping to kill one of those Guardian guys in one shot, and it did 1/4 of his HP. It was so depressing. It costs 2,000 credits as well, which is not exactly cheap, and it doesn't do good damage at all. It's kind of terrible, so don't get your hopes built up like I did. But here is an observer. The observers will always try to rush you. They'll always try to move to an angle where they can shoot you. And their laser is a beam. So the longer they hold it on you, the more damage it does. And that laser will strip you in seconds. And you might notice, I don't have any bullets. So I think of something stupid that shouldn't work, and it does. I'm going to run this motherfucker over with the car. And guess what, guys? It works. This normally doesn't really work. When I've run over soldiers and I've run over the animals, it didn't do any damage to them, and they seemingly stood up fine. But when I did it to that guy, he died, so that was pretty amazing. But there you go, when in doubt, use the car. And then I'm backing up and reversing over him to make sure he's dead, because I didn't realise he had gone. And now I can go and get some ammunition and we can continue this fight. The only reason this is as hard as it is because it's a lot of observers in a small space, and you don't have any abilities or any levels or anything. So if you use this opportunity before you come here to do some side quests and get some better equipment and level up a little bit, this will be much easier. But as it stands, this is a really tough fight. This is one of the toughest fights in the game, and it sounds silly, but it's true. Because in those other fights, when you're taking on 50 guys and it's a massive war, you have such better gear. Right now, we don't have anything. We're like Poundland warriors. It's pretty tepid, but you can make it work because the combat in this game is so much more capable than it's ever been. And it's all down to the mobility. You've no doubt seen me jumping and dashing all over the place. It is so empowering. If you have the ability to instantly dodge anywhere, you want to do that. It makes so much sense. And the clever player who stays alive in this game is the guy who learns how to dodge. And it sounds really obvious, and it is, but you need to get on it immediately. And when I watch anybody playing this game and they're not using the dodge, I just wonder what they're going to do when it gets really hairy later on, because unless they've got some kind of god build or they're incredibly overleveled, they're going to have to learn to move, and moving is important. But now that you've killed them, we can scan both of these artifacts, and then we can do the Sudoku puzzle that's going to turn on the air, so we can save the people on Mars, just like Quaid did in the best movie ever made. But you have to press this button to climb up, and I was running around like an idiot because I forgot you had to press this button, so the crossfade there was to show, just drop down, press this button, it raises these platforms, and then you can scan that pattern. But what was I saying? Weapons. Speaking about weapons, wasn't I? Talking about that shotgun. The shotgun that I'm going to recommend, and how you get them. So, the 3 ways to get weapons. You can buy them from the shops, as I kick my router. You can make them on the Tempest, I think it's called, or you can find them in the caches. And this is something that's really worth talking about, but let me just go over the idea of this. So this is, of course, Sudoku. This is space Sudoku, and the concept, if you've never played this game before, is as is explained there. You cannot have a repeat of the symbol on any of the columns that are, horizontal and across from the character. This game takes it a little step further, because I've never done Sudoku, so I don't know if it does the same, but you also can't have a repeat in those highlighted squares. So do you see how this is split into a grid of 4 pieces? Not only can you not have the same characters on a full line going horizontal and vertically, but you can't have them in that 4 grid period either. And that's kind of how you do all those puzzles. I am terrible at doing any kind of thing like that because my short-term memory is so bad, and it takes me a long time to process information and store it. So I struggled a lot with that when I first came across it in the game. But it turns out the more that you do it, the easier your brain gets to processing the information, so I'm actually pretty good at it now. I wouldn't say I'm a great Sudoku player and I wouldn't seek it out, but I'm getting better at them, and it's a good thing, guys. So if you're having trouble, you can get these coins that enable you to skip those completely, but they're quite expensive and they're quite rare. So you can either do that, or you can, get a friend to help you, or look online, something like that. I don't know if they're the same every time, the patterns, because if they are, just pause my puzzle and imitate it that way. And I wouldn't blame you, because when I first got it on stream, I was in no mood to do it at all, because it hurts my brain, that type of stuff. My brain doesn't do it naturally. So it's one of my my mental retardations. So I was kind of, I don't want to do this. This is horrible. And do you know when you stare at an equation and your brain doesn't do anything with it, and to other people it comes really naturally and easily, and they're just like, oh, it's this, this, and this. My brain doesn't do that. My brain does that when I'm recollecting porn stars and I'm talking about, completely eclectic movie quiz trivia, but aside from that, my brain doesn't do any of that naturally. So I find that to be very difficult. But luckily enough, I'm getting better, so maybe I can evolve. Maybe one day I will understand mathematics to a level of a child. But now you've done that, we can go to the final pillar, and I can get back to my conversation that keeps getting interrupted. So a really good tip, guys, that is key to weapons in this game, in my opinion. When you get one of those points from leveling up your bureaucracy degree or whatever it is, it's the point inside the Tempest, next to the kiosk, next to the Apex thing, where you can spend it on getting resources, or opening shops up, or getting discounts and things. You want to spend it on the reconnaissance perk. Also, this firefight coming up is buggy, difficult, and awkward, so Godspeed with it, guys. My strategy is to clear out the first bunch and then move around the left hand side, because then if they rush you, they have to come all the way around to you, and by the time they've done that, you can pick them up with biotics and knock them off. There is a big pitfall beneath this, so you can kill most of them with the fall, but if you don't, you have to finish them off or it will not trigger the next part of the game. Once again, Mass Effect Andromeda, which I haven't even touched on yet, has a lot of problems. I think it's a really fun game, but there is a lot of issues, and we're going to speak plenty about them, guys, but there's a lot to talk about, and I need to share it, because not everybody watches the full videos, so the first few videos are going to have a bunch of tips and a bunch of helpful pieces of knowledge that I've picked up over playing the campaign twice now, and hopefully you can use it to your advantage. So, once you pick the reconnaissance perk, on all of the habitable planets that you can land on and run around, it's going to completely fill them with chests on the map. They look like treasure chests. What you want to do, guys, is you want to go through all these planets and you want to highlight each of the chests and go on an adventure. Pick up the chest, highlight the next one, repeat ad nauseum. It'll take about an hour, give or take, per planet, depending on how good you are at finding where they are, because some of them are quite tricky and involve climbing mountains, and it'll all depend on how engrossing the television show that you're watching is when you're doing it, to how productive you are. I recommend you do this, but I also give you a little bit of a gambit here. I give you a bit of a ultimatum on this. It seems like the loot inside of those packages is tiered towards where you are in the game. So if you do it at the beginning, you'll get a bunch of level 1 and 2 weapons, which can give you a really good benefit at the beginning, but it won't give you a benefit later on. Later on, you'll have to work harder for the bigger stuff. If you're good with your weapons and you know exactly what you're doing, and you want to get some high tier stuff, Wait till the end of the game. Do you see that, by the way? That was an anointed spawning on me, and watch what he does. He has programming to run all the way around where his buddies are, so for whatever reason he completely ignores my team and just bolts. He's like the dude in The Last Boy Scout. Just running through all the team, shooting people. What a nutter, look at him! How lucky was that? Love it. I don't know why that happened, but I'm glad it did. So if you wait till the end of the game and you go and pick up those chests, they're full of level 5 gear. So there's kind of a trade-off here. But I look at it like this. Level 5 gear is all good and well, but it's only going to benefit you in No Game Plus. It's not going to benefit you in this run. You might as well get the good stuff in the early game or mid-game, because then you get stuff that prepares you for the next area. So a little bit of strategic, or strategery, which is not a word, but it sounds funny. I would say maybe do an entire planet at the beginning, get something good, continue the game, get to the next progressive checkpoint of the game where you move to the next tier of stuff, then go do another planet, and do that at each point of the game so you've always got something improving. That could be a good way of doing it. And what will happen, folks, is I believe there's a measure of randomness to what's inside the chests. Because I've opened a chest, got a bunch of stuff that was, you know, mods for my weapons, and a bunch of them in N7, because you get about 7 to 10 items, and they're all different rarities. There's a bunch of N7 stuff, there's a bunch of ultra rare, which is nice, then there's standard stuff, gold stuff, common stuff, you name it. And it seems to have some kind of randomness, and I say this because I picked one up, all it was mods, then I died, and then there was a weapon in it. But when I saved before opening it, and opened it, and then reloaded and opened again, it was the same thing. So I don't know how you manipulate the drops at all, but I think there's a way to do it. Suffice to say, go find something N7, level 2, at the beginning of the game that gives you what you want to use. In my case, I think it might have been a Falcon that I found, or a Scorpion, or it might have been that really good shotgun. But just pick up something that's nice. You can scrap the rest for resources or sell them for credits. It's entirely up to you. But when you do that, you're going to get a ton of stuff. It could be armor, it could be weapons, it doesn't really matter, but that reconnaissance perk is a great way of getting decent gear at any part of the game. So use it, guys, it's really important. And then everything after that is just uptake on mods and uptake on you know, creating new aspects of weapons. So, because you can buy Falcons, what I was doing at the beginning of this game is I'm going to research the Scorpion using Milky Way points, and I'm going to buy the Falcon. So that way I'm not double dipping on the Milky Way points and smiting any other weapons, and I have 2 explosive weapons that are going to see me through the game. The moment I get that shotgun, it's all going to change. The Ket shotgun is, of course, the Ket points, so use those to research it. And if you get lucky and you get any of them out of those reconnaissance packs, it's just gravy. I also got really lucky on an Ascendant when I killed it, because it dropped to an N7 tier 3, one of those shotguns. So there's a bunch of ways to get weapons, guys. It's entirely up to you how you do it. You can spend a ton of time farming and scanning and getting the points, or you can just get lucky, or you can just carry on. So that's kind of how we're going to be managing the weapons. It's up to you though, really. There's no set way to play. And this brings us to our light motif, as Bick would call it, at the end of this battle. So I don't know what's happening right now. I'm thinking that I've cleared it out and something should be triggering, but I don't know where the objective is, because the objective's gone into ambiguous mode. It's gone into ambiguous mode because there's one dude there. Did you see him? Or is that my team? I can't tell. I think that was my team. So it looks like we've cleared everybody out. We're not getting shot. I've looted it. I'm checking the objective because I'm like, what's going on here? And what happens is when I push towards the force field that's in front of that place that we need to go to, the structure from the remnants. Oh, you can see it now, it's on the map. See on the map? There's a red dot. There's one dude left who's, like, eluded me and gone flanking. And I didn't notice, because I was watching a movie with Charlie Sheen in it while I was recording this. So I was a little bit distracted. But there's a red dude, and just then, somebody fires at him, and I noticed that there's somebody alive. But when I ran over there, I just couldn't see him the first time. So I'm like, who the fuck is this? And it turns out, if you don't kill everybody, the shield never goes down and you can't go forward with the game. And it's one of those kind of arbitrary guidelines that the game does a lot. And it's very important to know, folks, that these moments can have scripting problems and complete failures. I've had times where enemies have glitched through the world and it never triggered the end of the fight, so it was a soft lock. I've had times where the objective is not interactable with, so it's pointing at something and you can't interface with it, so you have to restart. The amount of bugs and problems and glitches and crashes and just general performance technical issues that this game has is completely astronomical. I've run into all kinds of weird death loops, soft locks, just a general lack of polish that shouldn't exist but it does. And I still put up with it to play this game, which I think speaks volumes of the game. And we're going to analyse all that stuff later on, but these early videos are going to be filled with just kind of the path that I'm going to be carving out through Insanity. Oh, a little tip here as well for doing this. That what I did just then. If you wait for yourself to stand up after the mantle on that lip, if you hold A again, you will do a guaranteed jump and you'll get up that every time. There's no ambiguity to it, it does it really good. So it's a faster way of climbing. You don't have to do too much climbing though, because you can do most of the climbing in the car, because the car's kind of ridiculous, doing sideways mountain climbing, which everybody's going to be a pro at by the end of this game. But that's kind of my 2 bits on the weapons. Pick the weapons you like. Get that shotgun I recommend, because it's just, it will make up for levels, it will make up for inadequacies, it's that strong. And there might even be other weapons, like the Vanquisher rifle seems really powerful. There's a couple of other guns, the Scorpion is really good and super useful. But that's the weapons that we'll be picking. What else is there that you need to know? I've gone over the team I'm using, I've gone over how we're doing with the weapons, I've gone over the abilities that I'm going to be picking. Of course I'm going to be the Sentinel. You don't have to follow any of these things, but it can help you if you do, if you want to be, you know, one-to-one with what we're doing. We're not going to be doing any of the side missions or any of that stuff. We're going to be doing main missions only. And I don't think there's anything else specifically that needs to be explained. When it comes to the powers, my opinion of upgrading the paths for the powers is to focus on what you want that power to do. A lot of the times you'll have a choice where it'll say something like, have 2 projectiles, or an increase to what that projectile does to barriers, shields, or armour, depending on what you're firing at. Which makes me wonder, is there any barriers in this game? I don't remember seeing a purple life bar. I don't think I've come across like any Asari women with barriers. I wonder if there's a part of the game that does that, because at the end of the game, spoiler alert, I got a transmission from the Quarian's arc, and I didn't even see a Quarian in this game. Like, there's a ton of stuff like is it the Volus? Those, like, mole guys with the masks? I didn't see any of those. I didn't see any of the Hanos or the Elcor or any of those. There's a lot of races that are not represented in this game that we've left behind in the Milky Way. So quite a lot of people. But as I was saying, sorry, I will always prioritise personally whatever I'm using that tool to do. So if something says do extra damage to shields, if I'm using it to get rid of shields, I want it to do that extra damage, and that's kind of the way that the game is going to work. And it's the best way, I think, personally, to focus, unless you have something specific in mind. There is no one way of doing things in Mass Effect, that's what makes it so interesting. And believe it or not, there's a lot of ways to optimize what you've got, a lot of your tools, so feel free to do so. But thank you for watching. I'll see you when we enter the vault. You take care now.